I'm Anthony Davis, and it's Sunday, the 21st of July, as we react to the news that Joe Biden, the President of the United States, has announced that he will not seek re-election, meaning that he will be stepping down. He posted, "My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. We've made historic investments in rebuilding our nation, in lowering prescription drug costs for seniors, in expanding affordable health care to a record number of Americans. We've provided critically needed care to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances, passed the first safety law, passed the first gun safety law in 30 years, appointed the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court, and passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. America has never been better positioned to lead than we are today. I know none of this could have been done without you, the American people. Together, we overcame a once-in-a-century pandemic and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. We've protected and preserved our democracy, and we've revitalized and strengthened our alliances around the world. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve you as president, and while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all those who have worked so hard to see me re-elected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all this work, and let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. I believe today what I always have, that there is nothing America can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember we are the United States of America." Signed, Joe Biden. Well, for those of us who are firmly supporting and behind Joe Biden's re-election, that is obviously very disappointing. And it does seem that he has fallen foul of pressure from the media, much of which the energy comes from the right. And, Donald Trump, I guess right now is a little worried because he thought that he had it in the bag, because he felt that Joe Biden was deteriorating and aging enough that he could just, kill him in debates and consequently steamroll over his re-election. But now, well, the glove is on the other foot, because what are we going to look at? We're going to have to try not to speculate, but at the same time make some predictions. Will Kamala Harris now be elevated to the top job? And who will be her vice president? Some people have suggested that a Pete Buttigieg and Kamala Harris ticket could actually be a very powerful one, with Kamala Harris in the top seat and Pete Buttigieg as VP. The thing I like about that setup is that it's hitting Republicans where they hurt the most, by putting a woman of color on the top of the ticket, and then a gay man second. I mean, for me, that would be that's kind of perfect, because that really is, a two-finger salute to everything that MAGA Republicans stand for. Being anti-gay, being anti-women, being anti-people of color, and so, for my money, I think that would be a very interesting pick. And I personally believe that Americans as a whole are far more progressive than this narrow MAGA Republican minority. So I actually think that ticket could be a very strong one. But, as I say, I don't want to speculate. Over the next few weeks, obviously, the Democrats will need to get together in their own conference and, put forward these names and vote accordingly. And so we should let them do that. But I would just say that, regarding Joe Biden, all of the criticism that his ego was the reason that he wanted to seek re-election, and he was in denial about his age and his health, I never went down that road. To me, none of that is true. If you know Joe Biden, if you understand who this person is with a lifetime of public service, you'll recognize that there is no ego. He genuinely came out of retirement when he heard Donald Trump try on both sides Charlottesville. And for that, we must thank him, because he beat Donald Trump in 2020 and ended 4 years of fascism in America. So we wish him well. Arguably one of the great presidents that America has ever had, and certainly one of the great vice presidents as well. He brought that experience both as a VP, as a president, and as a senator, and before that, as a public defender. And that tells you who Joe Biden is as a person. And to find somebody as kind and somebody with as much empathy as Joe Biden is going to be a difficult task. But I am a big supporter of Kamala Harris. I felt that Donald Trump last night abusing her with rhetoric about her being crazy and about her laugh. You know, any man that refers to a woman as crazy really is a misogynist and chauvinist of the highest order. And so it's very disappointing to know that, you know, Donald Trump is still using these tropes and these dog whistles, despite calling for unity, albeit briefly at the beginning of his speech at the RNC. So it's all to play for now. Those of us who were keen to maintain the model of Biden-Harris are now going to have to pivot. And I'm very open to that because, I believe that really now the important thing is finding the right pairing and finding a force that is able to fight Donald Trump. But I also recognize something that maybe isn't really being said, and this is very important, is that, you're not voting for Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg or whoever the ticket's going to be. You're voting for democracy. You're voting for women's rights and civil rights. You're voting for human rights. You're voting for inclusivity. You're voting for diversity. You're voting for modernity, having America be as modern a country as most of the other countries around the world who have not banned abortion. So that's really what the vote is. For me, it's less about a personality contest and it's more about a movement and a belief system and being a good person. And, I often think, excuse the Star Wars reference, but I often think of the Democrats as the Rebel Alliance. And I think of Trump and MAGA Republicans as the evil empire. That's kind of all you need to know about this race. I'm Anthony Davis. You can catch me on the 5 Minute News podcast on Wednesdays, co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with Midas Touch.